Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Crime Talk with Scott Reich. And I am, in fact, Scott Reich, your host for this evening. Thank you all for joining us. We greatly appreciate you. We know there are lots of things that you could be doing, but so the fact that you're taking your time to join us does not go unappreciated. I assure you of that very, very much. All right. Everyone knows the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do. Leave me a comment. We'll try to answer all your questions tonight. Remember, we don't ask for super chats or anything along those lines. But if your question is highlighted, it is a little easier to pick out. I will give you that. And remember, hit that little bell so you receive notifications when we go live or put up new content. So you could be watching us this evening from Google, Facebook, Rumble, Roku, Twitch. We've got just about all of the bases covered. Why? Because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, simply for the fact that you never know what Google's, YouTube is going to do. They could take you down in a heartbeat just like that, like they demonetize nearly all of our videos at the beginning. So it's nothing personal, but it is what it is. Now, obviously, today is Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. We didn't bring you a regular show today. Why, Scott? Why did you not bring us a show, you may ask? Well, let's just say, is it only Tuesday already? It has been a long week. I start a homicide trial next week, so we have been preparing for that. Add to the fact that you have to go to the doctor today for your annual physical, where a couple of weeks ago they took the blood and they had all the tests, and then you get the physical and all that good stuff, and then you got to sit down with the doctor. He's going to tell you what to do. So that took some time out as well, but we are healthy. I think Crime Talk will be around for a long time coming. So that's a good thing. It has been a very, very long week. But you know who also had a very long week or is having a very long day? Well, I think it was Alec Murdaugh. That's for sure. So we can talk about the Alec Murdaugh case. I've talked about this feeling that when you're a defense attorney and you go in there and things are going pretty good and you nail it, like the jury's really starting to like you, and this, they're going to listen to what you have to say, that you've convinced them to go in with an open mind. And then something happens. In the case of Alec Murdaugh, a door was opened. Allowed in all that information as it relates to the 404B evidence related to the financial crimes that he's allegedly committed. We saw it last week. Now the jury gets to see it because the court determined that it goes to, if it's not 404B evidence, even though he went through the 404B evidence analysis, he said, hey, it's res gestae, which means, yes, it's separate offenses. Yes, it's prejudicial. But it's so intertwined into the charges at hand that even if we didn't allow it in, we'd almost have to allow it in to help explain what was going on. And obviously, the fear or the theory of the prosecution is that Alec Murdaugh used the death of Paul and Maggie to gain some sympathy, to delay the internal law firm investigation as to the missing $792,000 fees, and everything was just starting to spiral out of control. So things were going pretty good for him. And I thought, wow, the prosecution's case, pretty, it's not exactly overwhelming. They don't have the actual weapons that were used. There's no eyewitnesses. And then a couple things started happening. First, obviously, we have the 404B evidence, which just doesn't look good. Now, certainly the defense is going to be able to get up there and say, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Murdaugh may be many things. He may be a thief. He may be a disbarred attorney. But by gosh, he is no murderer. And let's look at the evidence that they have that he committed these murders. And they would go through them. Now, the financial stuff was bad. The caretaker, Michelle, spelled with a U, Smith, Michelle Smith, the caretaker for Miss Libby, Alex Murdaugh's mother, who was suffering from dementia, testified that on the night of the murders, January 6, 2021, Mr. Murdaugh showed up. In fact, he called from downstairs, say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm coming up." Okay. It's your mom. You can see her, whatever you want. But she said that was very unusual for him to just swing by at 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock for a quick little visit. Little unusual. And then the whole thing comes out that a couple days later, when they're having what they refer to as the pass-through or repass, which is basically the little house gathering after the funeral to talk that Alec Murdaugh kind of suggested to her. If you know what I mean. I was there for 40 minutes, wasn't I, Michelle? Here you're getting married. Those weddings are kind of expensive. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more, say no more. Kind of doesn't look good. Then we had the whole tarp thing where she said it was a tarp. It looked like a tarp. Then they're saying, oh, we found this jacket in the closet that had gunshot residue. Okay. And, it's the classic questions. Well, you can't say when the residue got there. You can't say who was wearing the jacket when it got there. It's not like they're saying there's, little pieces of, his son's brain housing group there, anything along those lines. So, they have a blue jacket there. But she said, yeah, no, it was a tarp. It looks like a tarp, the kind that you put on a car. You don't put a jacket over a car. You put a tarp over a car. And that's what she said she looks like. There's some semantics. The defense basically said, Judge, strike Miss Smith's testimony, just unreliable, or basically, no, not unreliable. It shouldn't be relied upon because she said quite clearly that it was a blue tarp. In fact, we introduced a blue tarp into evidence that was not the blue tarp in question, and which I thought was a little odd. It was more of a demonstrative exhibit, but they admitted it. Okay. And she said, yeah, it looks like the tarp. They said it looked blue. It was rolled up, bundled up. She didn't see a shovel. She didn't see a firearm in it. And there you go. I don't know what to tell you. The defense said, Judge, strike her testimony. She said blue tarp. They pulled the transcript. It looks like she said blue tarp. It can be, read of anyways. And the judge made the correct decision, said, I understand your argument, Mr. Griffin, but that's a question of fact for the jury to decide. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, in any trial you have, right? The judge is the trier of law. That's why everybody stands up when the judge enters the room, because they're the judge. They're judge. Why do we stand up for jurors when they enter the room? At least in I think most courtrooms that I've ever been to, we stand for the jurors because they are the judges of fact. They decide if something happened or not. They get to decide what weight to give the evidence that has been legally permitted to come into evidence, and the jury can only rely upon those facts. So the judge said in this particular case, and I think this judge is very, very good. He reminds me of a lot of kind of senior judges. It's like, this is my courtroom. I'm going to control it. Even though there's lots of experienced attorneys, you notice they argue, and whatever the judge rules, they basically, yes, Your Honor, and they move along. Not a whole lot of arguing like you see oftentimes with maybe a younger judge where you can think you can get a little more out of it. But this judge is doing great. He is absolutely doing wonderful. So the tarp comes in. The blue coat testimony comes in, and then we get the evidence today, this afternoon, about the gunshot residue that was found on the jacket. Okay. Nobody saw him wearing a jacket that day. They can't say when that gunshot residue got there. It doesn't mean that you fired a gun. It simply means you could be in close proximity to a firearm to have gunshot residue. So, there's lots of stuff, individually, is it enough? No. Cumulatively, is it probably going to be enough for a conviction? Well, I kind of thought maybe the defense was kind of out to a lead at first, but I feel like that lead is coming down. Like I mentioned before, as a defense attorney, you're thinking, wow, this is really good. Everybody, the jury likes me. This is great. You know, the first couple witnesses are kind of perfunctory. No real damage happens. And then it comes. They just start piling on evidence after evidence. And you're just like, oh, here it comes. And you got to make that fat happy. It's all good. Nothing bothering me here. Is that all you got? Huh? Is that all you got? Bring it on. And I think that's kind of the way it's going for the defense. They're giving it their good shot. Their client maybe was in a little trial psychosis. Maybe they were in a little trial psychosis as well. And that you get that. You get into trial psychosis like, oh, is that all they got? You know, a confession, an eyewitness, third party on video and a DNA. So what you're telling me is they got nothing. I can work with this, right? And any attorney that truly loves going to trial is like, is that all they got? Oh, I can deal with this, right? It's easy when there's no offer on the case. And what we sounds like there was no offer on this particular case. So they prepared this case to go try it. And, you know, we did this on the podcast a while back, you know, Buster Murdaugh, I guess it'd be the great grandfather of Alec Murdaugh, who was also the solicitor down there in that judicial district a long time back in the 50s, got indicted in federal court for basically corruption. He was allowing moonshiners to engage in moonshining, and, you know, prosecutor was getting a kickback. And the federal judge said it was the most corrupt thing he's ever seen. But Buster Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh's great grandfather, was acquitted, not guilty, by a jury down there in South Carolina. The trial took place in Charleston, I do believe, if I recall correctly. So, you know, the reality of it is, you know, there's a lot of people that are moving into that area, but a lot of people live there all their life, and they either probably going to know the Murdaughs, they're either going to love him or they're going to hate him. And if he's done them right over the years, you know, you never know. You just never know what is going to take place at a trial. Usually what you think is going to happen does. We just have to wait and see. So we can certainly talk about that. Mama Pink says, can't wait for Eddie Cousins to take the stand. Let's put that up there. Old cousin Eddie to take the stand. I think he's going to spill all of the tea on old Alec, all of it. Shout out for Frank for y'all doing this. I'm not sure. You know, cousin Eddie was the guy that supposedly helped Alec Murdaugh shoot himself on the side of the road to hopefully make it look like a murder, but it turned out to be a botched murder suicide so that he could collect the $10 million in life insurance policies to go to his son Buster. But you know, what can you do? What can you do? We'll see. There's been rumors. We don't like to talk about rumors, but there's been rumors that maybe he may have confessed to old Eddie. We'll wait and see. I don't know. I was kind of hoping the attorneys that had the little conversation out at the brothers' little hunting lodge, you know, the family must be doing well, though, when all of the brothers have their own hunting lodge. I mean, I don't know about you, but who here in their family all have hunting lodges? Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. All right. Obviously I didn't raise my hand, but who wouldn't like to have, the whole family's doing so great. We all have our own hunting lodge, 1,700 acres. And old Moselle just sold for $3.9 million. You would have thought that maybe old Alec would have refinanced it or something if he needed the money. I'm just not really sure what he spent the money on. You know, first it was always drugs, but that was it. But that's not, you couldn't spend that much in drugs. That's for sure. Why can't I? So yeah, now the other case, obviously, that we can talk about this evening, we got Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Their trial is coming up here. It's be here before you know it. Scott, you have your own plane. Yeah, but Alec Murdaugh had an old runway on his hunting lounge. It used to be like an airstrip or something out there. I mean, yes, there is Crime Talk 1. And now we're going to have another Crime Talk 1 here, assuming it all comes out of inspections successfully. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's a long way away from your own hunting lodge, okay? Long way away, for sure. All right. Next thing, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. So now I was going back over old Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell stuff this evening to, go through and try to see what's new in that case. And, old Idaho just never seems to surprise me. I've told you I've never seen a case literally tried in chambers. I've never seen it before. I mean, I've never seen anything done like this before in Idaho. And we brought you the story yesterday on Kohberger, where they're appealing the gag order by the court, basically saying it's in violation of the First Amendment, it's prior restraint, because, yes, the court can put gag orders on parties to the case. The attorney for the case and the family members should not be subject to a gag order. I think that was overly broad. I said it way back when it came out. We discussed prior restraint, and I just don't get it. I do not get it. The court, even, the Pentagon Papers, prior restraint. New York Times is going to run the story of troop movement, all that kind of good stuff. I just, we were having this little conversation today here in the office, and I just don't get it. These are public proceedings. All right. These are public proceedings that, well, it's a public courtroom, right? It's a public courtroom. And for a court to prohibit the family members from talking about, commenting on a case, basically, I think that's a stretch. And I think that the courts have struck that down quite clearly, right? Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The First Amendment there, ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't read it in a while. Abridging the freedom of speech. Obviously, the First Amendment, fundamental right, carries through to the 14th Amendment to all the United States citizens as well. And so they can't do it. I think the judge can put reasonable limitations on the parties, i.e. the attorneys, the prosecutor, the defense attorney. But to say that the victims' families cannot talk about the case, or I just think it's wrong. And the court in that particular case, oh, your stuff's here, Frank. And, the court to try and prohibit that and then put it in an order. It's just, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I never will. I don't think the government should be limiting anything. The discussion we were having today is that, the government makes everything classified, confidential. And the reason why they do that is that they don't want, people to submit FOIA requests to say, oh, we want to see what the government's doing today. How are they spending their money? What decisions are they making? I'm of the mindset that it's the government. I should be able to walk in and say, hey, Miss County Assessor, Treasurer, let's take a look at the books. Now, we can't have everybody do that. I get it. But it should all be public information. But like I've said this before, and I will say it again, show me one time in the government where they said, you know what? The people of America are smart, good and true, and we can trust them with difficult facts so that they can make the best decisions out there. No. What does everybody do? What did the court do in the Kohberger case? They put a gag order in because they think we're all too stupid to understand what's going on. And we mentioned it in the Letitia Stout case, I think it was yesterday or maybe Friday, that they finally got a case set. And the defense attorney was like, oh, Judge, this may be, I'm concerned. There's so much pretrial publicity about this case. We won't get a fair jury, blah, blah, blah. And the court said what I have been saying all along, just like I said in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell matter, in the Alec Murdaugh matter. Yes, they brought in lots of jurors to the Alec Murdaugh matter. I think they had 600 brought in, something to that effect. And they were managed, they got a jury in 2.5 days. It's not that difficult because it's not, do you know anything about the facts of the case? Most people have. Everybody in South Carolina has heard the facts of the case. Everybody knows about it. The question is, can you make your decision based upon legal and competent evidence that is admitted into court? Then we move to the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell matter. The judge thinks we're all stupid. And there's no other way of thinking that, because I don't know what possibly could be more embarrassing than being accused and indicted of killing your 2 children and the spouse of your new husband. What? They want to protect the privacy interests of somebody? I get it. Okay, we're not going to get to see the psychiatric and psychological evaluations to restore Lori Vallow to competency. But all this stuff is going to come out anyway. And this judge and these prosecutors, I don't know. I think I've lost a lot of faith in them. Hopefully, well, I guess I'd say, wow, I hope I get to see them in action and they change my mind. But that's right. They were some of the people that said, no, Judge, don't allow the TV cameras in here. And I get, Lori Vallow's attorney, they're making a judge. We don't want the cameras. We don't want to make a client look bad. Blah. Okay, whatever. You're doing your job. But the prosecutor should have stood up and said, no, Judge, this is an important case, not only to the community, but to the family members who cannot attend. And what we need to do is be able to have a camera in the courtroom so that this can be done appropriately and the world can see that things have been doing in open, fairly. They're not some cover up for the church, as some people have alleged. We're not going to let anything bad out about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka the Mormons. That's their commercial, not mine. That's what they say. People are like, oh, if you use the word Mormon, that's offensive. It's their commercial, for God's sakes. They're the ones that say it. I don't know anything that much about the Mormons. I know my son went to school with a lot of them. They were all very nice kids, very polite. Never got in trouble. That was always a good thing. I have nothing negative to say about the Mormons. I just think the judge should let the world see what is taking place. Does he really think that we're not going to find this out? For him to seal everything, when you go to his orders and he seals everything, and he wouldn't even have done it, but for the fact that, God, what's her name? Lori, last name, totally brain freeze. Yeah, Lori Hellis. Sorry, Lori Hellis, brain freeze there. Lori Hellis filed a motion saying, Judge, I want access to everything. And then he went back and looked like, oh, no, you don't get everything. Sorry about that. I don't know. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind that people are like, well, that's okay. The government's there to look out for us. And, this is probably really sensitive. We don't want to do anything wrong. No, it's supposed to be in public. I'm telling you, 28 years of criminal defense work. Not once have we ever had a closed hearing. Not once did we ever lock the doors and told the press or even family members, victims' family members, to get out. Yes, you can have a sequestration order, which a witness can't, appear for when there's evidence being taken, because you don't want to have them see the testimony of somebody else. and maybe change their mind or suddenly remember something. But I've handled the worst of the worst type of cases, and not once do you ever do it in a closed hearing. And most cases that I can even think of where they said we're going to close the hearing, it gets reversed. You're violating the defendant's right as well as the public's right to know under the Sixth Amendment, a right to a public trial. Sure, we're going to have the trial in public, but I think that carries on to other proceedings as well. I have seen cases reversed where they kicked everybody out of the courtroom that wasn't a juror because they didn't have enough seats for the jurors to sit in. You can't kick even family members out. So I hope now, and who knows, but it seems like everybody there in Idaho is kind of a go along, get along kind of state. The only one, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I gave him so much crap, is Mark Means, who used to represent Lori Vallow. And I can't believe it, but I've always said, I'll be honest with y'all, if I messed up, I mean, don't get me wrong, he'd never done a felony case in his life. He was completely floating in the wind, like a bag out there going across a field somewhere in a windy day, just kind of tumbling along, not really sure where he was going. But at least he was willing to stand up. He didn't know any better, right? Everybody else seems to be this go along, get along kind of group there in Idaho. And I just don't understand. And I really, really, really thought that things were going to be different in the Kohberger matter. You know, the judges unseal the affidavit. We get to see what evidence they have. Like, all right, this is the way it's supposed to be. We're getting started on this. And then what happens? A magistrate judge, and if the magistrate system works like it here, it doesn't here. Judges are appointed by the governor where I come from, and then in the district court, and then they stand for retention and what have you. And then the chief judge in each district, depending on their budget, can hire a magistrate. They're not elected. They're basically hired by the judge. That's it. And they do, the tasks that the judges think they're too busy to do, not important enough to do, and the magistrates are the ones that do it. So the magistrate judge issues an order so overly broad, in my humble opinion. We talked about it. We did a video about the prior restraint and did an analysis of the cases. It was actually kind of a long video, but it was necessary, I think, to explain the cases that everybody seems to rely upon, saying, well, you can do it. And, oh, well, maybe this was a little too broad. And this is, this is okay. What do people have? Why is it always the government that has a problem with letting the facts come out? Seriously. I don't get it. But, everyone always thought I was, you go to the little cocktail parties, the barbecues, and, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a criminal defense attorney. Well, what do you think about this? Yeah, I don't trust the government. Yeah, don't trust them at all. Sorry about that. And then, over the years, people, have finally said, oh, wow, Scott, that's pretty, the world that you work in, that's pretty crazy. Particularly when, there was Mr. Floyd and he died. And, they had allegations of the cops planting stuff and abusing people. And I'm like, I've been telling the world about this for the last 20 plus years. Everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Oh, the police don't do anything like this. Scott, how dare you not trust the police? Don't get me wrong. I love the police. I've gone to just recently a fundraiser for the police. A gentleman that I know said, hey, come to it. What are we supporting? We're buying vests for police officers. Okay, that's good. It's a dangerous world out there. I love police. I love even more good police. What I love even best is good police getting rid of the bad police. So no, don't trust the government. The old trust but verify, so to speak. That's why in every case you go double check exactly what they said. Why? Because they think we're all a bunch of idiots and they think that they all know better, and we can't let the people know what's going on, because if they knew, then they would lose all complete, total trust and confidence in us once they realize that we have no idea what we're doing and we're completely incompetent. All right. Missing persons cases. What's in the coffee cup? The lawyer. It's water. It's water. Okay, I can't see them on mine. They're not showing up. Jen, Scott, where do you think the dollars was going? It seems too much for a drug habit. Jen, totally agree. No way this guy could spend millions and millions of dollars on what was his drug of choice? Pills of some type, oxy or oxycodone or whatever it is. Yeah, way too much money. I mean, I don't know if this guy had a gambling problem. Maybe they're going to surprise us with something about that. I mean, the guy was making, I think they said in the in-camera hearing that he was making a general salary of about 10 grand a month. And then they would make a bonus at the end of the year based upon their share of money that they brought in. And that could be 7 figures. It looked like he was making in bonuses at least another $1 million, if not more, at the end of the year, which, you got a budget $1 million over 12 months. Oh, how are you ever going to get by with that? Right. And apparently he couldn't. They had the hunting lodge, they had the Edisto Beach house, they had another house, apparently living large, supporting everybody, so to speak, I guess became expensive. But I don't think it was drug related. If I had to guess, I'd say gambling debts. That would be my guess. Is there another super chat up there, Frank? Did I miss one? Alec Murdaugh spent money on interest and blackmail and bribes. Wondering how much the banker made off him. Oh, I'm sure the bank made tons of money there. The banker at the old Palmetto State Bank, they were moving money back and forth and having their own little private slush fund. And there's no doubt in my mind that they were all in on it. It was a good old boys club down there. They were all in on it. They were all taking care of everybody. And we'll see. Like I said, we talked about old Alec Murdaugh. That family can be pretty persuasive. Pretty persuasive, apparently, years ago. He was one of 2 people found not guilty on all that corruption stuff years ago. And the judge was completely appalled and flabbergasted and basically said, hey, it's the old adage, you get the government you deserve. Well, you get the prosecutor you deserve as well. To the prosecutor's credit that was originally on this case, he recused himself immediately because he was such good friends with Alec Murdaugh. And he'd worked there and his family and all that good stuff. So they brought the attorney general in. And don't get me wrong, I think the attorney general, he went into that courtroom ready to win. But just a little observation here. Just note this, right? I've mentioned this before. It says the people of the state of South Carolina versus Alec Murdaugh. And I think he's got 3 attorneys that have actually done something in court, maybe 1 or 2 behind, and maybe a paralegal or something there. And who knows, back at the office. But, that is, so got 3, maybe 4 attorneys and a paralegal or 2. The prosecution has like 8 attorneys, and they all have just one little thing to focus in on. The other day it was the gentleman who we hadn't seen before talking to Miss Smith. I mean, only having a couple of witnesses and be able to sit there for a whole trial, piece of cake. I loved it. You know what I mean? But that's when they mean it's the state versus you and all the resources that the state has. And they were just they're coming down on him. They really, really are. Let's see, Michael. They found that the inside of the blue raincoat, abnormal amount of gunshot residue, showing that the raincoat, no doubt, came in contact with a firearm. The raincoat looks like a tarp, no doubt. It's certainly blue in color, not as big as a tarp, as Miss Smith, described on the stand. Indeed. But as all of the firearm examiners will tell you, is that, they say abnormal amount. I didn't recall that particular testimony, but they said there was quite a bit of gunshot residue. But that simply means that you were in the close proximity to a gun being fired. If I'm standing here in the CrimeTalk chair behind the CrimeTalk microphone and somebody next to me fires a firearm, I would have gunshot residue, much larger amounts probably on my left side where I'm standing next to them, and probably less on the right side. No doubt. It just means that I'm in close proximity. If I went shooting and they dabbed my coat that I was wearing when I was out at a shooting range with guns, whether it would be a shotgun or rifle or even a handgun, and they dabbed my hands, there would be gunshot residue. There'd be larger amounts there than they would be, you have to wash it away. I think, obviously the thing that hurt Alec Murdaugh, I think, on that is the housekeeper, in that she said he basically tried to suggest to me that it was 40 minutes that he was at the house. And she was so flustered by that. She called her brother, who just happens to be like the assistant deputy police chief in a town nearby, looking for advice. Like, this is what he's trying to tell me what to do and say. That's a little weird. Yes, he was overdraft $400,000. That's a pretty good chunk of money to be overdraft, no doubt. But as the defense tried to play off today, was that where's the financial benefit that they would receive? There was no life insurance policy. Nobody's ever said, "Wow, all my problems would be solved if Maggie and Paul were gone." Nothing along those lines. Is it just the sympathy factor? The attorney, Mr. Tinsley, who was suing on behalf of the Beach family, basically said, I would drop the case if I truly believed that this was some sort of random violence or some sort of targeted attack against the Murdaughs for the Mallory Beach case, just for the sympathy effect. He wouldn't do that. But then they became convinced that it was Alec Murdaugh. And so they're pushing the case forward and they're, plugging away. So, there's so much stuff. Let's see here. Scott and Iowa v. Jackson, prosecutor said they outlawed GSR testing. Scott and Iowa v. Jackson, the prosecutor didn't use GSR evidence. She said they outlawed GSR testing. I am not aware of any GSR testing at all. And like I said, it's a classic cross-examination. Everybody knows it's coming. Okay, you bag somebody's hand. Heck, I got a case coming up where they didn't bag somebody's hand. Okay, you didn't test for gunshot residue? Oh my gosh. But when the cross is there, sir, you can't say whether somebody fired the gun if they had gunshot residue on them. No, I cannot. All you can basically say is that they would be in close proximity to a firearm within up to 3 to 6 feet, normally of a firearm, in which you could have gunshot residue on you. That's correct. In fact, you can't say just because somebody fired a firearm that they would have gunshot residue. No, I cannot. So, like I said, I get it. The whole tarp thing, the blue jacket thing, it has gunshot residue. But guess what? If you're out in the rain and you shoot gunshot residue, you shoot, it's going to be there. And unless you wash it, it's going to remain there. All it is just the little medical particles that come out of, the gunpowder. That's all it is. Little, and if you look at them, it's like a little sticky when you do the little GSR tests. it's like little sticky and it's got little magnetic things on it. It just collects the gun. That's what gunshot residue is. It's not anything big or fancy. It's just, to do it. Okay. Visiting 35 minutes and change time 20 minutes. I agree. That's a problem. I think she was a very credible witness. I do. Some of her stuff was a little inconsistent, but that's for the jury to decide. And yes, the caregiver, Miss Smith, looked terrified to testify. She did. She became emotional. She loves the Murdaugh family. She apparently, it's not uncommon for these, caregivers to become quite attached. She liked working for Miss Libby. She was her caretaker, spent the nights with her. Probably wouldn't know her from Adam, right? Because she had dementia. But the reality of it is that I think she told the truth as she remembers it. Was it, was she looking at did she have start the clock? When did Alec Murdaugh get here? No. She said, well, sometimes it was between 8:30 and maybe 9 or 9:30. She didn't have the exact time, but she knew it was about 20 minutes. So, we'll see. Yeah, the 20, and then changing it to 40 minutes with the hint of, hey, I hear those weddings are expensive. Yeah, let's see here. What is Alex doing there then right before he died? When you have Darcy. So what was Alex doing there with them right before he died? And why does he have GSR on him? And why is he bringing the coat there? Good point, Darcy. And what you're referring to is, why is he there? Remember the Snapchat video that Paul was sending to his friend because he was caring for his dog. And they're like, oh, look, the dog has a problem. Take a look at it, but it's all okay. Don't worry about it. I think that was 8:42 or something about that time. Don't hold me to that last minute. And there's 3 voices. And Paul's best friend, who's that young kid, said, yeah, that sounds like Alec Murdaugh. I think 2 of the people that he worked with for over 20 years are like, yeah, that's Alec Murdaugh's voice. That's him. And if you noticed, and this is what I've noticed on a couple of issues with the defense, most particularly as it relates to the TikTok video, or not TikTok, the Snapchat video that Paul sent, was they kind of glossed over that being Alex's voice, didn't cross-examine him on it, because they're going to say, no, I think that's his voice. They got to work around that timeline. They're trying not to highlight it, but basically it went somewhat uncontradicted, so to speak. I don't know. Yeah, I think Miss Libby, I really don't know if she's still the caretaker for Miss Libby. I thought Miss Libby died. The dad died, and then didn't his wife die? I think maybe I'm wrong. One-man crowd. GSR is nothing fancy in a country with more gun than people. We do have a lot of guns. Yes, we do. Thank goodness. Can you imagine how dangerous it would be without them? Jeez. Wendy wants to say, Scott, can we just hope that the judge in the Vallow Daybell trial will tune in and get some excellent advice from you? That would be hope for the families of the children. Well, I have put my words out there. Obviously, the judge can do what they want to do. Frankly, I'm not surprised that the magistrate in the Kohberger matter thinks that we should all be prohibited from talking about the Kohberger matter. Although we have tried to limit it to the facts, even the fact that this woman yesterday wants to be his girlfriend. I do not get it. And mark my words, if Alec Murdaugh is committed to prison, convicted, I am sure that he will have no shortage of women that want to get to know them. No doubt in my mind. had a case a while back where I was getting all these letters from the jail. And apparently there's like pen pal places where people can write, like, hey, I'm in prison. Want to write with me just to help pass the time? And people do it. And they share some of their most intimate details. And sometimes these even come to fruition. Like I said, I just don't get it. I know the dating standards must be somewhat low for lots of women. Usually I get it. Do they have a pulse? Can they fog a mirror? They're alive. That may be good enough these days, because let's face it, there's some guys out there that are not exactly, expanding the population, so to speak. And I don't know. I don't know what it is, but then you get all these women who want to go date the guy. I guess they just love the bad boy stuff. They want the bad boy. I don't get it. I do not get it. I do not get it. I do not get it. And a guy, says, hey, I'm going to start dating a guy. Gonna go date the guy that's accused of quadruple murder. Mom, I'd love for you to meet my new beau. He'll never be coming over for Christmas dinner. Because he's maybe never getting out. Certainly won't be there this year because the case will still be ongoing. But what were they, Pisces or something? That was their mutual sign. Their mutual love sign was their Pisces together. Thank you, Scott. This is from Dr. Edward Moskowitz. Can you put that one up there? Thank you, Scott. Miss Mushelli needs some protection, plus her sweetheart. Love your channel, Dr. Ed. Well, thank you, Dr. Ed. Appreciate that. Yes, I really, I was a little concerned for Miss Michelle Smith as well. She, I think she was nervous, probably because I hope it was just because it was her employer and she really liked the family and they were nice to her, at least when they needed it, right? When she needed it. So I don't know. Let me take that one off there. It's I hope nothing. I don't think anything that happened to any of these witnesses. I really don't. Now Miss Smith may never work again down there in Old Hampton County ever again. But we'll see. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm an expert on stuff. I lived down in that area when I was on active duty in a previous life so long ago. I mean, I got off of active duty 23 years ago. That just shows you how long ago it was. But I still go down there. I try to get down there, as much as I can. But the South is a different place. It's do you notice the manners that they have there? Normally in court, you call everybody by their last name, but they're referring to a lot of people by their first name. But like Miss Michelle, Miss whatever. That's this thing in the South. They do the Miss. It used to be, hello, Mr. Scott, how are you? Oh, Miss Kristen, how are you? That kind of thing. Manners matter, and your word matters too. It really does. Now, old Alec, his word not worth a whole lot, at least at this point. But it matters down there. And, people, places where everybody knows everybody and you got to go do business with everybody, they, I mean, don't get me wrong. You got a bunch of carpetbagger lawyers coming from old Columbia down here. They all kind of let them know, we're from the city. We're from Columbia. We're not, just let them know we're not from around these parts. There's such a thing as being hometowned. And I've experienced that before where you think, man, I just cleaned the floor with the prosecutor. I mean, this is great. Kicked his butt. There should be a not guilty. And they come back with and you're like, excuse me? Did you? And it wasn't just trial psychosis. It was like, did you just really see? And you literally see the jurors telling the prosecutor, "Hey, we'll see you out on the slopes, man. It's all going to be great. See you, like, hey, ooh." Totally hometown. Okay. Had cases where, everybody knew maybe the client had a new girlfriend. Everybody in town knew on the jury, except this guy. Small towns are funny. So you have to, listen, whatever the way the trial goes for old Alec Murdaugh, we're going to have to wait and see. But I'm telling you, small town juries, they will shock you sometimes because they got to live with these people. This isn't like the big city where you're never going to see these people ever again. You got to look at their family members in the eye. You got to see them at church. You got to see them at the grocery store. You're going to run into them. Heck, you may need their services someday. You just never know. And the way they look at it is, they may say, hey, it'll take care of itself. Things will take care of itself. They're going to take all his money. He's disgraced. What more do you want out of this guy? Let's see here. Swedish mom. Hi, Mama. Long time I've been around, but lurking most. I don't think the Murdaughs will have any power after this. It's certainly going to... let's see, what's this? Scott, did you see where the nurse who is a paraplegic for attempted suicide that killed her 3 children was granted the right to stay in a rehab hospital instead of a state hospital? I think I saw a blurb about it, but I didn't read in any great detail about it. If she's going to need rehabilitation, whether she's in prison or elsewhere. They're probably like, hey, give her the treatment. I don't know. You still, once you get convicted, you still have to be treated humanely. You have to do that. Okay, let me see here. There was sometimes I get lost in some of these comments. We're like, ooh, the comments are getting good. Conversations. Where was it? I'm looking for Mama Pink's thing. Oh, geez. I've highlighted everything. I don't think they're gonna have much power after this. They don't even have, the Murdaugh name has been taken off of the law firm. Now it's the Parker Law Group. So yeah, it's not good at all. Let's see here. I was just looking. So I'm sorry. Don't want to, but I was just looking. Let's see here. Anyway, all right, we'll move on. So, wow, look how quickly the night goes by. Seriously, we could literally talk about these cases for hours and hours and hours. We could. But, heck, we hardly even got to Kohberger and his new girlfriend. Just weird to me. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, what can you say about that? That's going to be the biggest mess around, no doubt. I don't know. We'll see. But I think the Alec Murdaugh case, and this is what I like about the Alec Murdaugh case. One, not that I want to say I told you so, but I kind of told you so. When we covered this case, because I get the newspaper down there, the Island newspaper down there in South Carolina, I saw the thing about it. It was Murdaugh. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of good. It was interesting. And then it kind of went away, and then it kind of came back, and then it got really good. And people were like, oh, I don't like this case. It's boring. Tell me this case has been anything but boring. No, it has been absolutely exciting. Little twists and turns, little doors being cracked open, doors being kicked open, and then the defense has to adjust and deal with it, and it's starting to, just become overwhelming. I mean, seriously, it's going to be good. And like I said, it's small towns. You never know what's going to happen. You guys, really, really good attorneys. We're not done yet. More of the 404B stuff is coming in. And, the defense is going to have to explain that away. I mean, basically, you have to concede, I stole some money and I had lots of issues. I overspent. I gambled, whatever the excuse may be. But I didn't kill my wife and kid. That's it. Why would I kill my wife and kid? I would never kill my wife and kid. I love my wife and kid. Nobody can think of a reason why I would kill my wife and kid. What's the financial benefit of me killing my wife and kid? I mean, it's not like the case goes away against Alec Murdaugh on the boat case. Unless maybe sympathy. I mean, they said basically Alec was not that good of an attorney, but what he really good was a BSing, schmoozing people. Interesting, isn't it? And we've all known those types of people that are very, very good, very successful. I know some attorneys that have a very good lobbying practice, right? Wouldn't know their way around a courtroom at all. But boy, could they schmooze anybody into getting any kind of a deal anywhere. Yes, they could. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to get really good, though, I'm telling you. But guess what? We've done our live show. But if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can go down below, hit the link, become a Patreon member. We're going to do our Patreon show where not only do we just look at the chats as well and talk, you can actually call in. And of course, what do we have back here? That's right. Look at that right there. The Magic 8-Ball, where we will ask and solve all of the great legal questions out there in the world today, what the Magic 8-Ball thinks of them, and see how it comes up. Magic 8-Ball was on a roll there for a while, but kind of been floundering just a little bit. All right, let's see if there's anything here I need to handle before we head on out, but head on over to the Patreon link, and we'll meet you there in probably 5 minutes. Scott, do you feel the financial will prove motive? Remember, they don't have to prove a motive. They don't have to prove a motive. And what the defense is going to argue is, hey, he stole some money, ladies and gentlemen. It's money. You can make more. What's the big deal? Successful guy, successful family, guy can go sell cars or whatever he needs to do, right? But he didn't kill his kids because there's no evidence. There's no eyewitness. There's no evidence tying him to the actual killing. Okay, his time is off, but guess what? Who exactly keeps track of their time at every moment of the day? Oh, that's right, we don't. But cell phone data does. Ooh, voice, bad. He's down there clearly right before they got killed. And what are the odds? As soon as I'm assuming he's going to argue that even if he was down there, as soon as he leaves the house, goes to see his mama at an unusual time, according to the witness, the caregiver there, what are the odds that they were just happened to be shot moments after he left? Unless he hired somebody. But guess what? The prosecution didn't charge conspiracy. They're saying that he did it. That's where maybe something comes up. Even if they think that Alec Murdaugh did it, maybe had somebody else do it. That's not the way it's charged. They're saying he did it. He was the trigger man. Not complicit with somebody else, not in a conspiracy with somebody else, but that he did it. Let's see here. Is there another super chat up there? It's a new member. Thanks for becoming a new member. I always forget to do all that stuff just because I hate asking for money like that. I just, only time YouTube ever calls is, hey, you can do this. You can get more money. Just have to ask your subscribers to do this. I just hate doing that. I appreciate your time watching the videos. I really do. Appreciate the super chats, but we don't beg for them like some channels do. Maybe I should. Maybe I wouldn't be I would be doing this show during the day, 8 hours a day, not in the evening if I had all the super chats that some of the people make. Well, I just got to get through the summer. That's the way I look at it. Got to get through next week. Then I got another trial and then another trial. And I was keeping track. We have 5 homicide trials going right now. And it's just, and then I got in July, a 3-week human trafficking case. 3 weeks it's set for. 3 weeks. I'm going to be gone so long. People are going to can't remember Scott who. We'll have to figure something out. Even my trial next week, maybe we'll do a quick break. Quick update. Dum 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 dum. Breaking news. Dum dum. We'll figure something out so that you guys don't forget about us. Out of sight, out of mind. We can't do that. All right. We'll see you all over at the Patreon site in, 5 minutes or so. We've got at least 1,000 people watching. We got to get at least, 200 new Patreons tonight. Wouldn't that be fabulous? Come join us. And then you'll get the secret call-in number where we can have a conversation. See you there in a couple of minutes.